What if the most vital ingredients for human health were hidden in plain sight, mentioned in ancient scrolls that we've been reading for centuries without truly seeing? While the world chases the latest laboratory-engineered supplements, ancient civilizations, specifically those who walked the dusty paths of Judea, were utilizing natural flora that science is only now beginning to classify as genuine medicine. These weren't just props in a parable or decorative brush in a landscape. They were the medicinal foundation of a people who thrived in extreme environments. Today, I am pulling back the veil on 10 forgotten plants of the Bible, botanical wonders that were once prized for their ability to sustain, heal, and fortify the human body, only to be largely ignored by our modern sanitized pantries. This isn't just history, it is a blueprint for living that the ancients understood instinctively. Let's start with a plant that changed the way the world thinks about small beginnings and big results. Number 1, mustard, the anti-inflammatory giant. In the Gospels, Jesus uses the mustard seed as a standard for faith, describing it as the smallest of seeds that grows into a tree large enough to shelter birds, Matthew 13:31. But to the people of the first century, mustard wasn't just a metaphor for growth, it was a common, powerful staple. Known scientifically as Brassica nigra or black mustard, this plant was the ancient world's primary condiment and anti-inflammatory agent. Modern nutritional science reveals why. Mustard seeds are incredibly dense in glucosinolates and isothiocyanates, compounds that have been shown in clinical research to possess potent anti-cancer and anti-inflammatory properties. These compounds are essentially the plant's defense mechanism, and when we ingest them, they trigger a cascade of cellular protection in our own bodies. Studies suggest that mustard compounds can help neutralize free radicals, support detoxification pathways in the liver, and even modulate blood sugar levels. In the ancient world, mustard wasn't a jar from the supermarket aisle. It was freshly ground seeds, often mixed with vinegar or honey, used as a poultice for respiratory congestion or as a digestive aid to balance heavy, rich meals. The people of the Bible knew that true strength often comes from the smallest sources, and they used mustard to fight the inflammation of daily labor. They were consuming a superfood while we were simply seasoning our food. This is the first of many plants that modern science is finally confirming. Number 2, hyssop, the purifier of the ancient world. If mustard was the seed of faith, hyssop, Hyssopus officinalis, was the herb of purification. Throughout the Old Testament, specifically in the Levitical laws, hyssop was used in rituals of cleansing, most notably in the sprinkling of blood or water over those seeking purity. When David prayed, "Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean," he wasn't just speaking metaphorically, he was invoking a plant that the ancients knew held potent antiseptic capabilities. Modern science has validated this biblical intuition. Hyssop is rich in volatile oils, including thujone and carvacrol, which exhibit strong antimicrobial, antiviral, and antifungal activities. It acts as a powerful expectorant, which explains why it was traditionally used by biblical communities for respiratory ailments, clearing the lungs of mucus and soothing the coughs of the desert traveler. Unlike modern chemical disinfectants that can disrupt our internal balance, hyssop works to support the body's natural defenses while acting as a gentle, effective antiseptic. In a time before sterile hospitals, this shrub wasn't just symbolic, it was the household sanitizer and the primary herbal remedy for the lungs. By understanding the chemical makeup of this cleansing herb, we see that the instructions for purity given to the Israelites were not just spiritual, but biological safeguards. Number 3, coriander, the manna spice. Scripture famously describes the manna that fed the Israelites in the wilderness as having the appearance of coriander seed, Numbers 11:7. While scholars debate if this is the exact plant we know today, coriander, Coriandrum sativum, has been a staple in Middle Eastern kitchens since the dawn of agriculture. Often overlooked today as a simple garnish, ancient cultures recognized it as a digestive powerhouse. Modern clinical trials have highlighted coriander's ability to soothe the gut, reducing gas and intestinal spasms by relaxing the smooth muscles of the digestive tract. It contains high levels of linalool and other phytonutrients that offer significant anti-inflammatory and anxiolytic, or anxiety-reducing benefits. Furthermore, its unique ability to assist the body in chelating heavy metals has made it a focus of modern functional medicine. To the ancient laborer or prophet, coriander was a daily companion, added to stews and breads, not just for its citrusy, earthy flavor, but because it ensured that their simple, carb-heavy diet didn't lead to the digestive sluggishness that plagued many other civilizations. It was the spice that kept the ancient gut in equilibrium, proving that even the most common ingredients in the biblical pantry served as vital medicinal support for a life on the move. Number 4. Figs, the medicinal fruit of prophets. When King Hezekiah was facing a life-threatening crisis, a severe, festering boil, the prophet Isaiah didn't just offer prayer, he commanded a poultice of figs to be applied directly to the wound. 2 Kings 27. While skeptics might view this as primitive folklore, modern science has actually caught up to Isaiah's prescription. Figs contain a unique proteolytic enzyme called physin, which is highly effective at breaking down dead tissue and promoting rapid wound healing. Furthermore, figs are packed with psoralen and benzaldehyde, compounds that have been clinically documented to possess antimicrobial properties. Beyond their topical medicinal value, figs are a nutritional powerhouse. They are extraordinarily rich in soluble fiber, specifically pectin, which functions as a premier prebiotic, feeding the beneficial bacteria that inhabit your gut and drive your immune system. In an era long before the invention of the multivitamin, the fig tree served as the pantry supplement, offering high concentrations of magnesium, potassium, calcium, and B vitamins. The traditional practice of mashing fresh figs to treat skin inflammation is a remedy that modern science is only beginning to fully appreciate once more. Whether eaten at the peak of ripeness for energy or used as a healing application, the fig is a testament to the fact that ancient medicine was deeply practical and remarkably effective. Number 5. Dates, the original energy bar. If you were a soldier, a trader, or a pilgrim traversing the unforgiving landscape of the ancient Middle East, your survival often depended on one thing: the date. The date palm is celebrated in both the Bible and the Quran more than any other fruit tree, not merely for its shade, but because it was the ultimate survival food. Dates are calorie-dense, naturally shelf-stable, and provide an almost immediate energy boost due to their unique composition of glucose and fructose. Unlike the refined sugars that dominate the modern diet, dates come packaged by nature with fiber, magnesium, potassium, copper, manganese, and a spectrum of B vitamins. This makes them a slow-burning fuel source that prevents the metabolic crash associated with processed sweets. Even more fascinating is the clinical research surrounding their role in women's health. Multiple trials have demonstrated that women who consume dates during the final weeks of pregnancy experience significantly faster and smoother deliveries. Beyond these benefits, they are loaded with polyphenols and antioxidants that combat chronic inflammation and shield the body against oxidative stress. In traditional Arabic medicine, even the discarded pits were ground down for medicinal use. Today, dates remain the perfect, portable nutrition source, offering a way to break a fast or fuel a long day with gentleness and efficiency. Number 6. Garlic, the food the Israelites mourned. Of all the foods mentioned in the Bible, garlic carries perhaps the most emotionally charged historical weight. When the Israelites were wandering the wilderness, surviving solely on manna, they broke down and wept, craving the flavors of their past. The scripture specifically recounts this lament. We remember the fish we ate in Egypt for nothing, the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. Numbers 11:5. Their grief was not merely for a taste they missed. It was a subconscious longing for the protective, medicinal power of garlic that they had relied upon in Egypt. Modern nutritional science has vindicated this grief, as garlic is arguably one of the most comprehensively studied foods in the history of nutritional medicine. The magic, or more accurately, the biochemistry, lies in allicin, a potent compound formed when garlic is crushed or chopped. Allicin is a broad-spectrum antimicrobial agent active against a massive array of bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites that threaten the health of ancient populations. Clinical trials in the modern era have demonstrated that regular garlic consumption can reduce the frequency and severity of colds and flu, effectively acting as a natural immune system booster. Furthermore, multiple cardiovascular studies have shown that garlic helps lower blood pressure and LDL cholesterol levels, while simultaneously reducing platelet aggregation, which protects against clotting. Crucially, allicin is volatile and highly heat-sensitive. The ancients, in their wisdom, used it raw in dressings, preserves, and even topical applications for infections. Egyptian medical papyri, which predated and influenced the knowledge of the ancient Near East, listed garlic in over 20 distinct medicinal preparations. To the Israelites, garlic wasn't just a flavor enhancer, it was a survival tool. They remembered it because it protected them. Today, we know that crushing fresh garlic and letting it sit for a few minutes before cooking to maximize allicin production is the most effective way to harness this wilderness medicine. Whether you consume it raw in a salad or lightly sautéed in olive oil, you are participating in a health tradition that has been respected for millennia, not just for its pungency, but for its profound impact on human cellular defense. Number 7. Lentils, the food of prophets and paupers. The Bible's most famous lentil story is a cautionary tale. Esau trades his birthright for a single bowl of red lentil stew. That seems extreme to our modern ears, but in the ancient world, lentils weren't just peasant food. They were survival food. They were dense, filling, and could be stored dried for years, making them nutritionally extraordinary. Lentils provide one of the highest plant-based sources of protein, offering about 18 grams per cooked cup, alongside essential minerals like iron, folate, zinc, magnesium, and potassium. They were the fuel for soldiers, laborers, and prophets because they provided exactly what heavy work demanded: sustained energy, muscle repair, and mineral replenishment. Modern nutritional science confirms that lentils have a remarkably low glycemic index despite their carbohydrate content, meaning they provide steady energy without blood sugar spikes. Their high fiber content feeds gut bacteria and aids in cholesterol management. Population research consistently shows that communities living the longest around the world make legumes a primary part of their diet. The traditional preparation involved soaking and slow cooking with aromatic herbs like cumin and coriander and serving with olive oil. This wasn't just a matter of taste. Soaking reduces anti-nutrients like phytic acid, which can interfere with mineral absorption, making the nutrition far more bioavailable. Number 8. Barley, the humble grain that outlasted everything. Barley is not glamorous. Historically, it was the grain of the poor, of soldiers on campaign, and of sailors at sea. When Jesus multiplied the loaves and fish for 5,000 people in John chapter 6, those loaves were almost certainly made of barley, the grain of the ordinary person. It turns out that ordinary people were consuming one of the most gut-friendly grains ever studied. Barley contains a higher concentration of beta-glucan than any other grain, a type of soluble fiber so effectively proven to lower cholesterol and stabilize blood sugar that the FDA even allows health claims on products containing it. Beta-glucan forms a gel-like substance in the gut, slowing glucose absorption and feeding beneficial bacteria. Barley also boasts a lower glycemic index than modern wheat or rice, meaning it provides sustained energy without the crash. Studies show it often outperforms oats in its positive effects on post-meal blood sugar levels. For a grain that cost almost nothing and could grow in nearly any climate, it was an extraordinary survival tool. Traditionally, it was prepared as a porridge or ground into flatbread, with hulled barley retaining more fiber and nutrition than the pearled varieties often found in modern grocery stores. Even today, it remains one of the best carbohydrate sources for heart and gut health. Number 9. Onions, the prebiotic king of biblical kitchens. Listed right alongside garlic in the Great Lament of the Wilderness in Numbers 11:5, onions were a foundational staple across every socioeconomic class in the ancient world. Egyptian laborers who built the pyramids were partially compensated in onions, and pharaohs were buried with them, suggesting they were prized far beyond their flavor. Modern science has finally decoded why they were so highly valued by ancient cultures. Onions are one of the richest dietary sources of quercetin, a polyphenol that functions as a potent anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and antihistamine agent. Clinical trials consistently show that quercetin helps reduce blood pressure and inhibits inflammatory pathways, which may explain why those who relied on onions had lower rates of systemic inflammation. Beyond their inflammatory benefits, onions are exceptionally rich in inulin-type fructans, prebiotic fibers that specifically nourish the beneficial bacteria in the colon, such as Bifidobacterium and Lactobacillus strains. Before the modern era of gut health buzzwords, the ancient world was instinctively constructing a diet that perfectly fed the microbiome. The sulfur compounds found in onions also facilitate detoxification by supporting liver enzyme activity, helping the body process and eliminate toxins. Historically, raw onions were applied topically to insect bites and minor burns, and onion broths were a standard tonic for the sick. When the Israelites wept for the onions of Egypt, they weren't just being dramatic, they were mourning the loss of a primary health support system. Whether raw in a salad for the full quercetin impact or cooked into a slow-simmered broth for recovery, the onion was and remains a cornerstone of nutritional health. Number 10. Almonds, the symbol that fed the body. When God instructed Moses on the design of the lampstand of the tabernacle, the menorah, he ordered that the cups be shaped like almond blossoms, a symbol of watchfulness and divine initiative, as the almond tree is the first to bloom in the spring. The almond was not just a symbol of the spiritual, it was a symbol of the vital. Gram for gram, almonds are among the most nutrient-dense foods on earth. 1 ounce provides roughly 37% of the daily requirement for vitamin E in the form of alpha-tocopherol, a fat-soluble antioxidant that protects cell membranes from the oxidative damage that drives the aging process. They are also high in magnesium, a mineral that is deficient in a large portion of the modern population, yet essential for supporting over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body. Clinical research has repeatedly shown that regular almond consumption lowers LDL cholesterol, blunts post-meal blood sugar spikes, and improves the diversity of the gut microbiome. An interesting aspect of almond nutrition is that the fat is less fully absorbed than one might expect. The robust cell wall structure means that a portion of the almond passes through the gut intact, acting as a prebiotic that feeds bacteria rather than being stored as excess calories. In ancient times, almonds were consumed raw, lightly roasted, or pressed into an oil used for skin and wound care, showing that their application was as holistic as their nutrition. By building their most sacred architecture around the almond blossom, the ancient writers demonstrated a profound respect for the plant's dual capacity to feed the body and represent the spirit. Modern science has simply confirmed that this nut of the patriarchs is a near-perfect food for human health. Number 11. Pomegranates, the antioxidant king. The pomegranate appears in Mosaic law, adorns the pillars of Solomon's temple, and features throughout the poetry of Scripture as a symbol of abundance, beauty, and life. Modern antioxidant science has become fascinated by this fruit because it contains a unique compound called punicolagon, found almost nowhere else in nature. This compound breaks down into urolithins in the gut, which have shown remarkable anti-inflammatory and potential anti-cancer effects in recent clinical research. Furthermore, pomegranate juice has been linked in clinical trials to reduced blood pressure, lower LDL oxidation, and improved arterial health. While the juice and seeds are packed with polyphenols that outrank red wine, green tea, and blueberries, traditional healers across the Middle East have long valued the rind as much as the fruit itself. Dried rind steeped as a tea was historically used to treat diarrhea, intestinal parasites, and inflammatory gut conditions. The lesson here is that the whole fruit provides a full spectrum of compounds the way the body has evolved to receive them. Extracting those jewel-like seeds takes effort, but perhaps that is the point. The most valuable things in the ancient world required work, and this fruit rewards that effort with compounds that modern pharmacology is still striving to fully understand. Number 12. Wine in moderation, the ancient medicine. The vine is spiritually loaded in Scripture, appearing in Noah's first act after the flood, at the Passover table, and in virtually every agricultural metaphor used by Jesus. However, this topic requires significant nuance. The Bible does not universally praise wine. It consistently warns against excess and drunkenness. Yet it does treat wine, when used wisely and in moderation, as a legitimate medicine. Paul tells Timothy in 1 Timothy 5:23 to use a little wine for your stomach's sake. And the Good Samaritan poured wine into wounds to act as an antiseptic. This was not merely poetic metaphor. Diluted wine, which is largely how the ancient world consumed it, has genuine antimicrobial properties. Studies have shown that wine at moderate concentrations kills common gut pathogens, including E. coli and salmonella, more effectively than the same amount of pure alcohol. The polyphenols in red wine, particularly resveratrol and proanthocyanidins from grape skins, are the subject of decades of cardiovascular research, often cited in the French paradox. Controlled studies show moderate red wine intake is associated with improved HDL cholesterol and reduced platelet aggregation. The key phrase is moderation. One small glass of quality red wine with a meal, in the context of a whole food diet, is a very different thing from what modern alcohol culture looks like. Use it sparingly and purposefully as medicine, as Scripture describes it. The people who recorded these ancient texts were not primitive. They were profound observers of the natural world. They paid close attention to what healed them, what sustained them, and what provided endurance in harsh conditions. They built their culture, their agricultural practices, and their daily lives around these observations. Now, modern science, with its clinical trials, double-blind studies, and biochemical analysis, is methodically arriving at the same conclusions. And plants like these 10 we have explored were the true medicine of the ancient world. The book was always right, the food was always the point, and the healing was the ultimate goal.